Let's go back to our biggest topic of the day, and that is Keir Starmer being urged to get a grip of work-shy Britain. 1 in 5 of the working-age population out of work. Let's speak now to Warwick Lightfoot. He's an economist, and he worked and advised for 3 Conservative chancellors and an employment secretary, and joins us right now. Good afternoon to you.
Hi, afternoon.
Thanks so much for joining us. I'm going to just update the stats for people who are just tuning in. I mean, these really are extraordinary. 1 in 5 of the working age population not in work is this time economically active. That's 16 to 64-year-olds. It's gone up 350,000 in the last year alone. It's up 1 million since the start of the pandemic in 2020. And it includes 2.8 million people on long-term sickness or disability benefits, or no, sickness benefits, not disability. That's a record high. 2.5 million are students, but then many of those will work in the holidays. 1.7 million are at home looking after their families, and 1 million have taken early retirement. Which of those groups should we be most concerned about?
I think, we've extended the period when young people are out of the labour market before they fully participate. I think this shows my age. I was in the first year when you couldn't leave school at the age of 15.
Yeah.
I think 1973, when already unemployment was beginning to become for the first time, a bit of a problem. And now we keep people on in school pretty much until they're 18, and then a very significant proportion go into some form of university or not. And I think that's one of the questions you've got to ask is, what are we accomplishing between the age of about 5 and about 21, 22, that perhaps we could do a bit quicker and get people into the labour market quicker and more appropriate, because I'm sure not every 16, 17 and 19-year-old wants to be in an FE situation, and they could get more out of practical hands-on work, and there's a lot to be learnt by being there. You then have this problem, which is that disability benefits tend to be more generous and higher than straightforward unemployment, and there are good reasons for that.
Yes.
So if you're out of work for a long period of time, if you can get yourself scored as being disabled and sick, then you will have a higher rate of benefit. And it's very, very difficult to police this, because you have really hard luck cases where most people listening to this programme will be very concerned that they need to be given the help and support they need, and it's not going to be good news at the end of the day. And then there are other people who have an opportunity to arrange their affairs to take advantage of what is on offer. And the particular difficulty is what is, in many respects, in its presentation, a subjective test of yourself, of your own mental health and well-being.
I mean, that's the thing. It used to be, I mean, when I first started writing about this as a political journalist, and the number of people who are, on the sick, as it was called, it would be backache. Backache was the number one. And now, again, fundamentally, if you tell me you've got backache, I've no way of verifying that unless I see pictures of you, you jogging and doing a full workout in the gym. Go, hold on a minute, he's obviously not actually unwell. But mental health, stress, anxiety, those are equally unverifiable by someone else.
Yes, and they seem to be genuinely triggered by things that superficially you and I would say, no, don't pull the other one. But I know a doctor who I have a lot of confidence in his professional practice, who was telling me someone who has a complex depression, serious depression, triggered by bereavement, but it's not a child or a parent. It's actually appears to have been the death of a pet. Now, that doesn't change the mental illness they've got. He's certainly presenting he's pretty ill, but you and I just wouldn't 10 years ago have thought you'd take this seriously.
Yes. And it's like, genuinely, pets, pets are very important parts of the family. Lots of people still will be grieving for their pets. I'm never glib when someone says a pet has died. But that's not an excuse to not go to work. I mean, that's the thing. And indeed, you might find that you're better off going to work and having that structure. I certainly know, doctors who talk to me about, people coming to them to be signed off sick, and basically saying, look, whatever it is, you're actually better off being in work. A little bit of time off after, say, a major bereavement or something, but actually you're better off going back to work, getting back into your routine, getting back on with life. I remember I had numerous miscarriages, and you have operations, and it was horrible. And I was always signed off for 2 weeks, and I was always back at work within a week, because I thought, God, I just want to get back to normal life, and just maybe lighter duties, but just sort of get back to things. And there is a real element where work is good for you, and not working is really bad for you, unless you're talking about people who are I mean, one of our callers earlier, doing an amazing job caring for a sick partner who needs round-the-clock care, or looking after disabled children, or I mean, there are many people. God, I'd rather have an easy day in the office than be caring, for 3, 2-year-olds. I mean, there are different ways of working, but we are talking about a lot of people who 10 years ago, 20 years ago, we would have said, of course you can work, who are now able to claim these benefits and are not working at a time when there are numerous jobs available. That's not sustainable in our economy anymore, not with particularly an ageing population, and more people are going to be retired versus the number of people of working age.
There are also diseases that would have knocked you out, killed you, and were kicking quick, that are now chronic and are going to be managed in the long term. And now, I wouldn't want to say to someone who's got a disease that's going to knock them out in 2 or 3 months, but they could just about stagger on till the end, you're not going to get any sick pay.
Yeah.
On the other hand, when you've got a disease that's going to go on for about maybe 3 or 4 years, and actually you're in your 40s and 50s and you really can work, I think then there are difficult questions you've got to ask.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and also there is an issue. An awful lot of people's health problems can be related to obesity, and fundamentally, that is a choice.
Yes, I mean it's very interesting. As I understand it, longevity is actually slightly falling at the moment, and it's been falling for about 15 years and picked up in different data from the actuaries who do the pension funds and so on. I've sat through at least 3 trial and evaluations where they said you're better off than we thought. I said, what's that all about? Oh, your assets have done all right. And then you discovered you'd actually lost more potential pensioners because they died early. Talking to my mates who are doctors, who are my age, have made the observation that our parents did very well in their 70s, 80s and 90s. But the ones coming up behind, I fear, I might be in this a little bit red in the face, and I'm not necessarily as flush as I once was in terms of the slimline. There could be quite a lot of us who are caught up in that train that's coming along.
Yeah, but here's the thing. So then people become unable to work. But it's one thing, isn't it? Like people, we might die a little bit early. We're not as healthy. We might not look as good as we want to. But that's different from saying, I can't work because I'm too fat and I've now got a dodgy knee or this or that, or I've now got diabetes. I can't work. I want everyone else to pay for me. I say to that, sod off.
And there's a lot of work you can... I mean, I know working from home has become controversial as a sort of Skyver's charter. I have a much more open mind about it because companies are able to employ people, like John Lewis's is able to employ people at home working on the phones. Yep. The AA are able to actually do it. They're able to monitor whether they're turning up and doing it properly. And there's a lot of work that someone who might not have the energy to get their togs on and drive 10 miles down the road or catch a bus, who could do it from home these days. Yep. The world has changed a lot. Yeah, absolutely, it has. In terms of what the government could do now, we know this is something that's been talked about quite a lot since, well, it's before the lockdown, but certainly since lockdown. It was Fraser Nelson at The Spectator who sort of exposed it. Now the other papers are taking it up. Keir Starmer's being told you've got to get a grip on this. Do you think there's any expectation? You're a Conservative, you advise Conservative chancellors. Do you think there's any chance that he is going to get a grip on it, that he's got the will? Because we were told that the Tories had the will and they still didn't do anything about it. It's very difficult to deal with. I mean, we have the highest levels of sickness benefits since they first started counting the numbers in 1993. And when you had this big change in the benefit system, which I was partly involved in, about 35 years ago, people switched over. And in my experience, you have to keep policing benefit, and you've got to be very energetic about it, but getting the right doctors in to do the testing, doing it in a sympathetic way, because if you do it too hard, then you get a backlash, and you have to stop it. We've had that as well. The other thing I'd just say is that you've got to be quite careful when you plan public spending, that you've got enough money going into those people who test the benefits. If you cut running costs and suddenly haven't got enough benefit officers, don't be surprised if 2 years later the benefit testing isn't being done properly. That happened about 25 years ago. Yeah, absolutely. And also, I mean, having people who have no medical expertise whatsoever deciding who is eligible for, was it PIP, for the personal independence plans and things like that. Quite extraordinary. Warwick Lightfoot, really interesting to talk to you. Thank you so much for joining us. Former advisor, he's an economist, former advisor to 3 Conservative chancellors on this issue.